Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Tell a Friend Tuesday. What do you think about that? Tell a friend. Tell a friend about Wisdom of the Sages. If you like what we're doing, you what do? You can forward. You could forward an episode. You go to Apple Podcasts and forward it to a friend. Oh. I think it's a good practice. If everybody forwards it to a people, we will spread the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I think it's safe to say, everybody's got one friend who's sort of out there on the edge, like, what's the material world about? I can't figure this crazy thing out. Those are the smartest people out there, the confused. And then we give them some truth. What do you think about that? I'm working on my Sanskrit sense, Kaustubha.
Your Sanskrit what?
That Sanskrit course.
Okay.
Everybody should go to Sanskrit Sense, like SENSE.com. There's a great course that our friend in Vrindavan teaches. But it's good. It's Sanskrit made. It's about time I learn a little Sanskrit. I've been saying all these mantras wrong my whole life, so I figured I'm going to learn the alphabet. I'm going to learn pronunciation. I'm going to get this stuff right.
Work on our
30 plus years. Huh?
You know where you can start?
Do I know where I can start?
Do you know where you can start?
I'm starting.
No, but I can tell you specifically where you can start with the first mantra that we do with our, going in, because you mispronounced that. I
mispronounced it. I got to, you know what? Now that I'm a Sanskrit master, you're mispronouncing practically every line.
I'm sure I am, but if I know about it,
you don't know the lagu and the rag. You don't know the lagu and the guru syllables yet.
I know. I'm really bad at it, probably. But if you tell me, then I'll try to change it. So I mentioned it to you once, and then you changed it, but then you went back, and I said, okay, I'll just let it go, right? But now that you brought up this
Sanskrit master, I got to
get it right. So then I thought I'd bring it up again.
I will, and because it's a trivia day too. Here's a trivia question out there. First person who gets this right on the Zoom board gets extra points. Whom did Lord Krishna allow to keep the Shamantaka jewel? It's a tricky one. Do you know that, Kaustubha or Mara?
I think I do.
Mara says no. Kaustubha?
Well, I'm not. I would be guessing.
Okay, speculate, please.
All right, we don't have anyone here on the chat board.
Where's Paramananda?
Yeah,
I thought Paramananda would get it.
Paramananda.
I'm thinking that it was a monkey of some sort. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Was it an animal or human?
It was
humanoid.
A crow.
Okay. I was gonna say crow, but then.
Well, he did give it to Jambavan.
Yeah.
To play with, and then they returned it to the city.
And then a crow took it in the end. There's a lot of controversy around that past.
A little controversy around that Shamantaka
intrigue.
Jewel.
Yeah.
Some say the Shamantaka jewel is that famous Persian jewel. Anyone know the name of that Persian jewel? The Noor di Lure or something like that?
Don't know about that.
And everybody says that the Hope Diamond is. Maybe that's the Shamantaka jewel, the Hope Diamond. Anyway, here's one. Name the king who turned into it. You're going to get this. Let's see if Mara gets this. Who's the king who turned into the lizard and was later rescued by Lord Krishna? Because he gave something in charity that didn't belong to him. I know Kaustubha knows.
By mistake. He was trying to do good too, right?
Yeah, it seemed unfair. I remember hearing that story.
Seemed unfair.
It seemed a little unfair.
It seemed a little unfair. King Nriga. King Nriga.
That's right.
Good. Parmananda got it. Okay, let's dive into the Srimad Bhagavatam. What do you say? I'm going to try to get the Sanskrit guy in tomorrow for a walk on Wednesday. Nityananda.
Okay.
Maybe you give some Sanskrit. If you've got some Sanskrit questions, you can ask him. Okay. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kaustubha, you want to tell everybody where it is?
We're reading today from Canto 2, Chapter 9, and I think we're up to text 25.
Text 25.
Maris, give me the nod. Yes.
Yep.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Vidirayeta.
Thank you.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati. I got to feel I'm saying all these words wrong.
Saraswati?
The goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadev, the author. Nasta Priyeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyanat Marandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Right.
Diving into the honeypot. You said 25, Mary?
Yeah.
Should we give a little
Sure.
context? So we have Lord Brahma, after spending many years in the dark, doing his meditation, just following the instruction. He's been blessed now. He was successful, and he was granted this vision of the spiritual world and of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu expressed his pleasure at how well, faithfully, that Brahma had carried out that instruction, and also that he did it with a pure motive. That was important too, right? And he didn't want to get anything from it. His mood was a mood of servitude, and then he was offered any boon that he wants. And so now Brahma is going to speak, and this first verse that he says it's interesting. It's sometimes the Bhagavatam is so profound that this verse is kind of just like a side point, but it's incredibly profound on its own. Because what happens is he's going to say, you're in the heart of every living being, and then in the next verse he's going to say, but still I'm going to say my prayer to you. In other words, you already know what it is. You're in my heart. Yeah,
why are we praying to God? He already knows what we want.
But he says, but still I'm going to do it. And so this is it's kind of a little side note. It's not even getting to the actual message, but even working towards that message is an incredibly profound verse. So let's read Canto 2, Chapter 9, text 25.
Lord Brahma said, O personality of Godhead, you are situated in every living entity's heart as the supreme director, and therefore you are aware of all endeavors by your superior intelligence, without any hindrance whatsoever. Text 26.
No, slow. We could spend the whole day on this commentary, Raghu. It's great stuff here. Shall I read?
Yeah.
So, Prabhupada says, the Bhagavad Gita confirms that the Lord is situated in everyone's heart as the witness. And as such, he is the supreme director of sanction. Right? He's the witness. He's in there, and he's not really active himself. He's witnessing, but he's also he calls it here, the supreme director of sanction. In other words, there's that saying, I don't know where the saying comes from, but man proposes, God disposes. Right?
Yeah. I don't know where it comes from, but
Yeah.
it rhymes in English, so I'm thinking it's an English thing.
Yeah, look at you, Sherlock over here figuring things out. You're becoming so lucid due to this fasting. You're immediately cutting to the essential information. Yeah. So man proposes, God. We have desires, and then how those desires play out, ultimately that requires the sanction, right? And we say, even for the simplest thing, even to lift this pen, I'm lifting a pen right now. I desire it, and then somehow it's sanctioned that it can happen. That's what the Bhagavad Gita is teaching. So the verse being referred to here is from the 13th chapter, Upadrast Anumantacha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatmeti Chap Yukto Dehismin Purusha Puruha. That Krishna says, yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and the permitter, right? The witness and the giver of sanction, and who is known as the Paramatma, the super soul. So Prabhupada continues in this commentary. The director, that means the Paramatma in the heart, director of sanction, is not the enjoyer of the fruits of action. He's not even we're in this body for a purpose to try to enjoy the material energy. That was our desire. It was granted through the form of a particular body, and that's why the Atma is within that particular body. But the Paramatma has no interest in that kind of thing, right? He's not concerned with trying to enjoy the material energy. So the director is not the enjoyer of the fruits of action, for without the Lord's sanction, no one can enjoy. For example, now Prabhupada's going to give an analogy here. You ready?
Hit me.
Okay. For example, in a prohibited area, I don't know, do these prohibited areas, an area that's prohibited to have alcohol? He says,
yeah, dry towns.
Yeah, but here it sounds like you can't even it's let's read what he says. Dry towns, that's where you just came from, right? It's right. Like you're right on that one too.
Pennsylvania, the dry towns.
For example, in a prohibited area, a habituated drunkard puts forward his application to the director of drinking, and the director, considering his case, sanctions only a certain amount of liquor for drinking.
Right, like if you can do BYOB in this particular dry town.
Or it sounds like, going to like a pharmacy to get some kind of medicine or something like that too, right? It's like, or like at a bar. Like at a bar, if the bartender says, you know what, guy, you've had too much,
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, in a prohibited area, a habituated drunkard puts forward his application to the director of drinking, and the director, considering his case, sanctions only a certain amount of liquor for drinking. Okay. Now, how do we fall into that? Prabhupada's going to tell us. Similarly, the whole material world is full of many drunkards. That's us, right?
Yeah.
Dented cans. As the drunkard is trying to enjoy the pleasure of alcohol. So we're trying, like drunkards, similar in the sense that we're not quite seeing everything properly, right? But we're trying to enjoy the material energy, and there's an agent there that's going to regulate how much we get. So similarly, the whole material world is full of many drunkards, in the sense that each and every one of the living entities has something in his mind to enjoy, and everyone desires the fulfillment of his desires very strongly. Okay, this is just basic, fundamental understanding of what's happening in the universe, is that you got a lot of different souls. They're in a lot of different bodies. They're all carrying desires of how they want to enjoy the material energy. And there's a Paramatma within that same body that is witnessing that desire and then sanctioning, kind of like allotting how that all plays out. The Prabhupada continues, the Almighty Lord being very kind to the living entity, as the Father is kind to the Son, fulfills the living entity's desires for his childish satisfaction. Without such desires in mind, the living entity does not actually enjoy, but he serves the bodily whims unnecessarily and without profit. Let me read that again. This is going to be real key. I think we should discuss this a bit. With such desires in mind, the living entity does not actually enjoy, but he serves the bodily whims unnecessarily without profit. The drunkard does not derive any profit out of drinking, but because he has become a servant of the drinking habit, he does not wish to get out of it. The merciful Lord gives him all facilities to fulfill such desires. Okay. So if we think about this, what it's saying is that what's really profound here and important and practical, and it could be a takeaway, a little takeaway for today.
Yeah, right? Takeaway.
We could take away this idea that we tend to identify with our mind as ourself and with our desires as our desires. If there's a desire in my mind, I think that's my desire. That's what I want. Right? And who are you to tell me what I should want? That's, what's being said here is that those desires are foreign to us, right? And we tend to become controlled by them. And
oftentimes they're just planted in our head. I mean, that's what advertising is. They plant desires, using fear.
Yep.
They'll have this home security advertisement on television or something, and have a picture of like a burglar sneaking in your house. Or they sell something with sex, and you're like, man, if I get that lawnmower, man, I'm going to have beautiful women around me. And it's just like, our preying on our base desires, fear, sex, some type of off the charts pleasure, and they sell products. And it's sort of like, and we call them our desires, but they're just cleverly placed within us, probably from childhood, just growing up and I'm sure it's different culture to culture, those desires.
Yeah. It's, I think for the average person, this is a very foreign idea, right? We think that it's interesting, but there's this example that's shared sometimes, bit of a graphic example, but it describes that Indra was once cursed, right? Now, your lack of sugar just has you. I'm going to go there. Yeah,
you're going to go there right now. It's like 5:20.
I'm going to go there because it's just so applicable. But Indra, he's if we understand the role of Indra, right, who he is, and really Indra is a position, right? It's a universal role or position that a particularly pious being, someone that's been like incredibly dharmic, becomes that one person amongst unlimited, innumerable living entities that gets to play that role, of Indra, who's got like, universal responsibilities, but also he's kind of like enjoyer number one in the universe, right? When it comes to material enjoyment,
he's the prince.
Yeah, that's the ultimate level, right? So when it comes, whether it be, material opulence in terms of, where he lives in the atmosphere, sexually, in terms of power, reputation, fame, beauty, he's been gifted with like material opulence at the highest level. Yeah. So often, the way that I understand how Bhagavatam presents Indra often is that it's saying that, look, here's even the number one materialist, and look how it doesn't work, right? Look how it doesn't work for him. Sure. And look how materialism isn't the answer to finding Atma Supersiddhi. I'm going to get there. Well, I'm framing it. Is that okay? Can I frame it a bit?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And I'm dying to see how you present this.
Well, it's
I don't share this story that often.
It's not that big a deal. Come on.
Let's maybe we got the wrong story. Okay.
No, I think we got the same. No, I'm not going. Not that story. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. So he was cursed. He had been cursed. I forget how he got cursed. Exactly how he got
Well,
cursed.
the
But
Thousand Eyes one was
no, I'm not going there. I'm not going
sorry,
there.
He slept with the sage's wife. He disguised himself as the sage.
Okay,
He
but that's
just
a
changed
different.
his form and snuck into her cottage.
Okay, but we're not going there.
Sage came back. Okay.
We're not going there. We're going where he was cursed to take the body of a hog.
Oh, that's a good story.
Okay. See, I thought you were going overboard with
That's
your
a great
concern.
That's
Okay.
one you can speak at a party. You can tell one at a party. You feel comfortable. It's funny. Okay, tell that story.
So, well, I don't know much of the story except this, that he was cursed to become. Do you know the story, how he got cursed to become a hog?
No, I don't know that backstory. He was cursed to become a hog. The king of heaven sitting in a. I mean, we like pigs here. Pigs are sort of.
We don't treat
sweet.
pigs very well, but in any case,
Oh, I don't know. My neighbors have pigs, and they're wonderful. They're like dogs.
Yeah.
But in India, they sort of like they eat the refuse, and when I say refuse, like open sewers, they eat the feces.
That's what they eat. That's their enjoyment.
That's
So this is the point.
They live and they sit in it, and they sit in puddles of. India's got a big problem with sanitation.
Some places.
Septic, and the pigs just live in the septic, so to speak, and they are the septic cleaners.
Yeah.
And they're just, and sometimes when a dog gets out of a pond and starts to shake, sometimes the pigs do that, and everybody like runs for their life. It's quite disgusting. There goes everyone's just like canceling their trip to India with me, but
you don't see it. We used to see them in Vrindavan all the time. I don't think I've seen it's been years since I've seen one
I
there.
don't see them so many.
Yeah. And so in any case, this became Indra's diet, right? We can't imagine the culinary, delights that he was enjoying as Indra.
Oh, you're saying because he was a pig, now he's sitting there eating feces.
That's right. And all the other devas are recognizing, oh my God, Indra, look what he's become. Look what he's come to, right?
Yeah, it's like when you see one of your friends and they've just fallen off the charts.
Okay, yeah, it's like a little intervention, right? They're doing a little intervention, and they're like, "Come on, Indra, it's like this isn't you. There's some you don't have to go there."
Yeah, it was an intervention. All the demigods came down. They're like, "Look, you know where you're coming from. You're so high. The life you've lived. All you got to do is say, I'm sorry. You'll be resurrected to your spot on that highest planet."
And they're trying to convey to him, this is just terrible. Where how low you've fallen and how low you've stooped, and the level of your enjoyment is like, this is terrible. This isn't enjoyment. This is disgusting, right? But because he was in the body of a hog, and by body means that he had the physical as well as, at least to some degree, like the mental body of the hog, right? The mind of the hog. And when we talk about the mental body, it means the desires that are within. Right? He had the desires of the hog. So for him, he was like, what are you talking about? This is great. I'm enjoying here.
Other beautiful pigs I'm around, surrounded by beautiful pigs.
Got a fantastic, all the food I need is right here in the gutter. Right.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool and refreshing.
Satisfying.
Maya has a way of conditioning you to think that even horrible things are very wonderful. Right. I mean, the idea with addiction is also like very relevant here. A person who's in the grips of addiction, you can't offer them anything healthy. Hey, you say, want to go to the gym? No, I want to go to the gym. Right? Do you want to go for a hike in the mountains? There's a place that or I know a tree where some organic plums are growing wild. You want to pick? No, a guy who's an addict is not interested. All they want is the very thing that's destroying their life, their family, their career. So in such a state of tamas, there can't even be proper choices. And those choices, or the so-called desires, which aren't from the soul, there are real desires.
Well, we're going to get there in the purport. That's the next point. Yeah, that's the next point.
Am I thinking like Prabhupada again?
You are.
The very nature of the soul is to desire.
Yeah.
But we are just been programmed like that pig. No, you like stool. You eat stool. And if you're an alligator, you think that other alligator is quite attractive. Right. And if you're a male, you're attracted like this. And we get programmed through the type of bodies we're attracted to.
So
it's like just like a computer program we're running.
There you go. So you're taking it to the computer analogy. The mind is nothing but a computer. It's a very sophisticated computer, but basically,
and you can retrain it.
And you could, well, this is the point. We're walking around the world with a computer that's prone to hacking, right? Like people that
like where you're going with that,
Kaustubha. Because there are these computer
prone
guys.
To hacking. Did you hear that?
Prone to hacking. Yeah. In other words, there, maybe amongst our audience, there are these people that are computer techie people. Well, no, I wasn't even going to say hackers. I was going to say people that protect you from hackers, that they build a firewall, right?
Oh yeah.
And so like if you have a company, these people come in, to build a firewall, right? From what I understand, they come in and they kind of protect your system from hacking. So that's what the yogi has to do, right? Now, one way they would do that is they would wander off to the forest. You know what? There's just too much hacking in the, hacking in terms of identifying with the family, hacking in terms of identifying with prestige in the community, hacking in terms of, material temptations in the world that I'm living in. I'm prone. I just got to remove my computer out of here and go to the forest, go to the cave, right?
Right.
So, but there's another way you could build a firewall and still exist in that world. And so that's what karma yoga or bhakti yoga do. Let's build a fire. Like Ashtanga yoga and Jnana yoga are like, hey, get out of there because you're going to get hacked.
You still get to use the computer, but it's completely protected. And we're doing the programming.
Well, but this is my point. Like if you take those forms of like yoga that involve, what is it called again? It's slipping my mind. Anyway, the term, but where you renounce the world, where you leave the world behind. That's like saying, if I stay here, my computer's just too prone to getting hacked. It's going to get hacked. I need to remove myself from it. And whereas like karma yoga and commonly bhakti yoga say, no, you can stay in the same atmosphere you are, but you got to build a firewall, right? And if you can build a firewall, then you can practice your yoga right in the world that you're in. And so we build that firewall through, reading Bhagavatam daily, discussing it, contemplating it, chanting your mantras.
The hearing of the Bhagavatam is the reprogramming,
yes,
of the desires as well. And then there's that special Krishna factor, where Krishna is the drug. It is like the Krishna crack. Let's not use that now.
You can do better.
It is like that though. You get really addicted. How about the Krishna glove jamun? It's so sweet that you can't stop. Let's say Krishna glove jamun.
What you're talking about now is you see, the way that I understand Bhakti yoga is the idea is I want through what I take in through my senses. And what are my senses? That's the camera, the microphone, etc., to the computer, right? The senses are just these extensions of the computer, of the mind.
Yeah.
So if I take Bhagavatam in, through the ears, if I take in the vision of the form of Radha and Krishna through the camera of the eyes, then I can reprogram the desires of that computer.
Sure.
To the point that the computer and the desires that are programmed in the computer are entirely harmonious with the nature of the self, right?
Sure.
And then you have yoga. Then you have the uniting of, or the harmony of the mind with the nature of the soul. If we can do that, our anxiety, our tension just becomes entirely relieved. The mind is the only thing that's causing all of the frustration and the mind, tension in our life.
The desires, almost
the
like
hack desires.
Strong conviction that this material thing will make me happy. And you can go down any rabbit hole of material things too. You can get into motorcycles, you can get into watches, you can get into shoes, you can get into clothing.
Cigars. How about cigars?
You can get into cigars. That's a whole rabbit hole, the cigar rabbit hole.
Remember that time we were...
you can get into not even evil things, like you can get into like...
But just take the cigar one. Do you remember that time you and I were hanging out on the sidewalk next to the cigar place? It was just like last summer. It seems like it was not this past summer, but the one before, right?
Yeah.
You were visiting me.
We were smoking cigars?
No, we weren't. We weren't. No, that's not what. We went to a little Indian place on Columbus Avenue or something like that, and a little Indian restaurant. We're sitting on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And right next door was like a cigar, like whatever, you know,
One
like
of the cigar stores.
a little cigar store. But and they were hanging out on this. They were hanging out on the sidewalk too.
Wine, that's the whole thing.
What's that?
Whiskey's the whole thing.
Yeah. But they were smoking these cigars, and it was kind of like this was their thing to do, right? You can imagine, like, during the day they're thinking, I'm gonna go to the cigar place and I'm gonna purchase probably an expensive, because I'd imagine it's like, I don't know, $10 for one of those cigars or something like that, right? And then they buy the cigar, and then they sit out on the sidewalk and like they smoke their cigar together and kind of like feel good about like holding that cigar and pulling the smoke in through
Sort of like
into
an
their lungs
ego.
and
You think
blowing
of all
out.
your heroes in the past from movies
Yeah,
that smoke
they
cigars.
got the cigar. So somehow through those movies and whatever other images they've had, their computer got hacked. They got hacked, right?
Yeah.
And they got hacked with this virus that said there's happiness and enjoyment to be found in purchasing and sitting and smoking this cigar.
Sure.
Now that desire and the fulfillment of that desire, it has nothing to do with the true nature of the soul. It's warped. It's a hacked virus in the computer. But that person, if you told them that, just like if you told Indra, come on, man, what you're eating here is disgusting. You can do better. Indra's going to say, no, what are you talking about? This is great. And
Well,
if you tell that person,
it's what every parent is trying to protect their children from as they get into middle school, of like, what are their influences? Who are they hanging out with? What are they? What movies are they going to?
Yeah.
Because it's like creating the consciousness of the child, programming. You know, all of a sudden, your daughter comes home wearing this crazy hoochie outfit. Like, where'd you get that
sorry,
from?
what kind of outfit was that?
Hoochie.
Okay.
You know, did everyone know what hoochie is?
Okay.
Is that a word?
I don't know. Whatever.
But it's like, because you see somebody in school wearing it. I don't know where they got that from. And, you know, and it's creates our fashion. It creates our haircuts. It creates the sneakers we buy. And we're just programmed, like, practically
right.
blank slates left for, like, Madison Avenue to program us. Tell us what to be.
Yeah, I'd imagine like.
And there's a thought, Kaustubha, there's a thing like, you'll find your identity. You want to find your identity?
Right.
Here's an identity you can buy. And then there's the J. Crew catalog, or there's the there's various catalogs representing different, like, you know, Tommy Hilfiger catalog, PacSun. I don't know all these mall stores, but they each got their own brand, pitch, spin on how to be. And you're like, yeah, which one can I be? I want to be the sort of surfer guy, even though I live in upstate New York. I'm going to
be the hoochie person.
I want to be the hoochie guy.
I'd imagine every father of a teenage daughter is like, this is like, oh, I hope she's not going to grab onto that identity, right?
Girl.
Don't be the hoochie.
Don't be the hoochie girl.
But every time you say it, it just makes her want to do it more, right?
Yeah, not my daughter.
And no, she's good.
She's not a hoochie.
So in any case, if you try to tell that cigar smoking guy on the sidewalk, come on, guy, this doesn't make any sense. You're just like creating cancer in your lungs, and you're spending money to do it just because your computer's been hacked. There's a million other things you could do to try to find some enjoyment. You chose this totally destructive one. It doesn't make any sense, you know. But because they have that desire hacked into the mind, they're saying, who the hell are you to tell me what to do? I'm doing what I want, and I'm enjoying life the way that I want to enjoy it. I don't need you to tell me what to do, right? So it's been hacked. Okay. So this is point number one, takeaway from number one, that the desires in our mind have nothing to do with us. They've just been hacked in there, and we're pursuing them and following them like a hog is pursuing, you know, the sewage in the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now Prabhupada's going to continue with this commentary. He's going to take it where you took it, Raghunath. And that is like this idea that desires, some people that interpret the Vedic teachings think that the desire, that the computer is the problem, let's say, right? Like they're going to say, you're right. These hacked desires are a big problem. What we need to do is get rid of the computer. Don't you see desires are the problem? What Prabhupada's going to say is, no, that's not actually the fact. It's just a question of, you just have to, what do you call it when you're like, you put the virus, what do they call it? Norton antivirus things, you know, you got to get rid of the viruses. That's the only problem. You don't have to throw the computer away.
Right.
You just have to.
You got to choose what you want to put in the program.
That's right. You need the right desires. And not only that, but that he's going to say that desiring is actually the very nature of the soul. You can't get around
for shelter record. Do you know it? Trivia quiz to Kaustubha, first shelter record.
Perfection of desire.
Yep, the perfection.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. So here we go. Prabhupada says the impersonalists. So this means there's a school of philosophers that study the Vedic literature, and in the end their conclusion is that our personal identity is unreal, right? That the fact that I have an individual consciousness and you have an individual consciousness, and no, that's all illusion. There's only one homogeneous divine consciousness, and any conception of individuality or personality, or to speak of form, is illusion. So he says the impersonalists recommend that one should become desireless, and others recommend banishing desires altogether. That is impossible. No one can banish desires altogether because desiring is the living symptom, right? We're eternally.
That's a beautiful statement.
Yeah,
desire is the living symptom. It's what we, in essence, are. You know,
right.
I think another easy example is I've eaten so much junk food, I feel horrible. I should just stop eating food. No, just stop eating junk food.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Perfect and refine our desires. And that's sort of the goal of yoga. We perfect and refine our desires. You can eat food, but it's in a certain quantity and it's a certain quality. You can drink. You can talk. I know it's fascinating with these sort of Mona Bubbas who don't speak, or these Vipassana guys who stop speaking. How about use your speech? You've been given the gift of speech. Sing. Sing songs to glorify God, appreciate each other. Use your speech to appreciate each other.
Sing out loud, sing out strong.
I just cut out your tongue, duh.
Okay.
Why? Just say something good about somebody. It's simple. It's simple math, man. Bhakti-yogi is so simple.
It's simple. Okay, so let's continue. He says, without having desires, a living entity would be dead, which he is not. Therefore, living conditions and desire go together. Hey, here you go. Perfection of desires.
Does it say that?
Yes.
What?
You didn't make that up on your own. You stole that from Srila Prabhupada. Okay?
It's called Parampara, Prabhu.
Okay.
You don't steal anything.
But why are you so surprised to see it then?
Well, because I must have just, you hear this stuff and then something comes out.
Right.
But I probably heard it from
heard
somebody.
It.
And then I passed it on and thought it was my own and copyrighted it.
Now you're making money off it.
Yeah, copyright by sequence.
Okay. Perfection of desires may be achieved when one desires to serve the Lord. And the Lord also desires that every living entity banish all personal desires and cooperate with his desires. Now, by personal desires, what he means is those hack desires, right? Those separate desires, right? He's that by nature, our desires to connect, in a loving, connection with that divine source. Then we have all these hack desires. So those, he's saying, that's what we need to rid ourselves of. Perfection of desires may be achieved when one desires to serve the Lord, and the Lord also desires that every living entity banish all personal, let's say separate desires, and cooperate with his desires. That is the last instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, right? What's the last instruction?
Do what you want.
No.
Do what you want. Have a good time. Life is short.
It was
you only live once.
It was Sarva Dharma Parityaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. That abandon all varieties of religion and simply surrender unto me. Right?
Yeah.
That is the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Brahmaji agreed to this proposal, right? He heard tapa. He said, no, what are you talking about tapa? I'm going to do what I want to do. No, he didn't do that.
No.
Right. He said, okay, I'm going to connect with the Lord's desire, understanding that I am the energy of the Lord. Really, that is my true desire. Because I'm the energy of God, the desire of God is really entirely, natural for me. And all these other desires are entirely unnatural, right? So he says,
okay, go on. Okay.
Yeah, but. So he says that is the last instruction. Brahmaji agreed to this proposal, and therefore he is given the responsible post of creating generations in the vacant universe. So in other words,
Imagine if we surrender our desires to Lord Vishnu, how Lord Vishnu will engage us. Imagine that.
you become an
If
instrument.
we just say, Lord Vishnu, I am yours. I have some desires. They're foolish. Who cares? What do you desire from me, Lord? Imagine how your senses, your intelligence, your will, your creativity, your musical genius, your artistic genius, your business acumen. Imagine how all that will be engaged if you just say, Vishnu, I'm yours. All of a sudden, Vishnu starts possessing your body. It's true. That's what happens. That's the whole thing. You become possessed by God. Okay,
Yes.
here's one. Jeffrey Ackler on the chat board. Not that I'm reading the chat board, but
I saw you reading the chat board.
I wasn't, but I did read this one.
Came through telepathy?
He texted me. How about that? He said, "Are the material modes of nature the hackers in this analogy?" I would say the material modes of nature mixed with our choices.
Well, the material modes of nature.
You could be in tamas and make a good choice, but if you're in tamas and you're just like bound by tamas like that, right? What do you think?
Well, our mind will get colored according to those modes, right?
So they're the hackers.
Or it's the faculty of the of the hacking, right? In other words, it's the forum or whatever. So yeah, exactly. But like if I spend my time in a sattvic area with sattvic people, eating sattvic food and listening to sattvic music, that's going to program my mind with certain kind of desires, right? And if I spend my time in a rajasic place with rajasic people, eating rajasic food, listening to rajasic music, it's going to program my mind in an entirely different way. The first one, my mind would be programmed towards contentment. And in the second example, my mind would be programmed towards like dissatisfaction, the need for something that I don't have, right? And then I could, and similarly, if I was in a tamasic place with tamasic people, eating tamasic food, listening to tamasic music, then my mind would become colored by that. I'd become lazier. I'd become more depressed. I'd become, I'd be prone towards destructive mentalities.
Sure.
And so yeah. Now the idea is in the sattvic mode, we have the best clarity, and we can begin to understand all this. So that's part of the firewall, is let me create a sattvic, let me dwell within sattvic atmospheres with sattvic people. Let me eat sattvic food. Let me, listen to sattvic sounds, et cetera, et cetera. Then I'll have the clarity to kind of recognize all this and understand, and really the ability that a tamasic or rajasic person, what we just shared today, right? This idea that your desires are not your own, that they've been hacked into you, that they're very separate from you, that they're controlling you, that you're a slave to them. If you tell that to a person that's heavily influenced by the rajasic energy or the tamasic energy, they're not going to understand you at all.
No. And sometimes we still, even on our spiritual path, we still have that. We have that rajasic pull or tamasic pull. If you're one of those persons who's getting that pull towards rajas and tamas, here's our little hashtag or tattoo you can get.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think it through.
Oh, think
it through. Think the whole damn thing through. Think it through from beginning. Oh, yeah. And then think the whole thing through, how it ends up, how you feel, where you're at, how do who you've become. And these things become habitual. Things become habitual because every time we make a choice, every time we make an action, we get the immediate result of that, right? The immediate result.
Sometimes it's immediate, right? Yeah, but sometimes.
Well, so we get an immediate result, of course. You go to yoga class, you get an immediate result. I feel good. You go to you smoke crack, you get an immediate result. You also get a seed planted in your heart to do it again.
Yes, I see where you're going now.
Nectar devotion, right?
Yeah, that's in the nectar devotion.
That seed gets planted. For example, I've never done drugs.
That's called kuta, right? Kuta.
Aparabda. Well, yeah.
There's parabda, there's aparabda, and then there's kuta.
Yeah.
That's
so what's going on?
Conditioning to live like that more, to want that.
Yeah. For example, it's like the dog that bites. The dog that bites. Most dogs don't puncture skin, but if dogs puncture skin, they're problematic. because they'll do it again. It's like why they have these a repeat offender. They're more problematic because they've already crossed that threshold of, yep, I'll kill or I'll be violent, etc. So if you've gone there, and most of us have gone to places, unhealthy places, then we've crossed that threshold. And I've never taken drugs, so if someone offers me, hey, Raghunath, you want some heroin? I'll be like, no. But even if you're 30 years sober from heroin and someone says, hey, you want some heroin? They might be like, no. There might be like a connection to that feeling, but they've separated themselves so far that it's loosened the noose of the grip of the addiction. And therefore, we're trying to create a separation. We're not, but the problem is it leaves that residue of that programming. How did we get on this topic?
It's been the whole topic. That's fine.
Okay.
But we're talking about if someone's been influenced or is influenced by rajasic or tamasic energies, then when you share this kind of truth with them, it is very likely that they're not going to have the clarity, the lucid mind for it to even make any sense to them. In the same way that when Indra, who's in the body of a deva, right?
Yeah.
When he enters the body of the hog, which is a tamasic body with a tamasic, mind, when he's in that body and influenced by that tamasic energy, then he can't, all the devas, they're like, come on, man, you went from the highest, like right down literally into the gutter. And,
been there, done that.
You don't want to live like this. And he's like, what are you talking about? Because he doesn't have that.
And he was almost proud of his position. I like it.
Yeah, I got
guys, what do you think you are?
I'm enjoying life. Who are you to tell me what to do? Right. That's that tamasic energy coming in, right? Like someone's trying to help you and you have no ability to even understand how they're trying to help you. You're just like, get out of here. You just get a little angry, that's that tamasic energy, right? So therefore we build our firewall, right? Let me eat sattvic food, right? Especially prasad, it's transcendental food. Let me not listen to tamasic music or rajasic music. Let me not, watch, rajasic, tamasic, television shows. Let me choose the people that I associate with, let me try, carefully, and in this way, I'll get a greater clarity. And this is how jnana, how the Bhakti-yogi applies jnana in their life. Like what we've been talking about today, right? That this is a jnanic idea that the mind is a physical thing that is separate from the self. It's a machine. It's being programmed by what comes through the senses. This is all jnana. This is what the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra and, all these, Bhagavatam itself teach this jnanic knowledge, understanding what is what. Then when we understand that, with that knowledge, with that jnana, we can say, so what am I? What am I made of? Who am I? And that same source of knowledge will say, that ultimately you are pure spirit soul, that ultimately you have this divine connection with God, and that the whole point is to reestablish that connection, and that's called yoga. So don't allow the hacking to take over, right? Don't be ruled by it. Free yourself. And that, in what Prabhupada was saying at this point of the commentary was, some people think that means you have to annihilate all your desires. Good luck. You're gonna, that won't work. You're going to make a very dry life for yourself. You can have the most colorful, beautiful, fun, artistic, life in yoga through bhakti yoga. If you understand that art, beauty, music, cuisine, all these things, they don't have to be cut out.
It's better.
You just have to improve them and align them or dovetail them, align them with that divine desire. And that's where Prabhupada's going to go in this commentary now. He's going to say, he said, the Lord is the super soul in the heart of every living being. Oh, no, you know what? I got to read this. He says, that is the instruction, the Gita, blah, blah, blah. What the oneness with the Lord, therefore, consists of, it doesn't mean becoming free of all desire, He says, oneness with the Lord, therefore, consists of dovetailing one's desires with the desires of the Supreme Lord, right? Which are consistent with our own nature. And he says that makes for the perfection of all desires.
Perfection of desires.
Okay. So now he goes on. The Lord, as the super soul in the heart of every living being, knows what is in the mind of each living entity, knows our desires. And no one can do anything without the knowledge of the Lord within. He's the one that's going to sanction our desires, lifting up the pen or whatever it may be. By his superior intelligence, the Lord gives everyone the chance to fulfill his desires to the fullest extent, and the resultant reaction is also awarded by the Lord. So it's kind of like, this is the reality, the rugged individualism that we embrace as, through the ego, that I've created my success, I've done this, I've done that. If we actually step back, we see that everything that we have has been granted to us. It's all been supplied. The food that I eat, the air that I breathe, what to speak of, my mental strength, my intellectual strength, my physical strength. None of these are my own. They've all been, I've desired them, and to a certain extent they've been granted, and to a certain extent they haven't, right? And to a certain extent the Paramatma has held back on my desires. And therefore I feel a constant sense of frustration, when we recognize that by nature, the soul is Krishna dasa, we're the servant of God. We're made of the energy of God. Like the ray of the sun is to the sun. We're made of the energy of God. And the desires of God are actually entirely harmonious with my nature. And these separate desires are just creating frustration for me, just pain and frustration. Let him go. Don't identify.
What's a little homework, Kaustubha? If we
You
want to
got
start
some homework?
a little homework.
All right.
If we want to start like sort of first taking notice of the gunas or the modes of nature, and sort of first we notice them, and then we want to play around with changing them, feeling when they're coming upon us or gripping us. What would you give us homework for this?
Oh, you're asking me? I thought you were going to give homework.
I was not going to give you homework. I'm just going to ask you. What's your idea of homework? How
about this?
Put this stuff to practice today?
People could, maybe what we should do, I don't want to just throw something out that won't be good for people, but maybe we could come up with like a special makeover Monday that has to deal with, like, say, cultivating sattva guna and seeing, like, just like you're going through right now with your fast, right?
Yeah, I'm very calm.
Like, you're very calm, Raghunath. Yes. What happened?
Senses, awareness, peaceful, extra kind to people.
You see?
Reserved.
So maybe we could come up with some kind of homework like that, an exercise, right?
Yeah,
an exercise. I tell you what, though, I think eating, there could be a lot of great exercises built around eating. Like, because generally people just stuff the food down their throat. Like,
Kaustubha is the most sattvic eater. No one here has ever eaten like Kaustubha eats.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm serious. It's for a person like me who's just like shoving stuff in their mouth at various times of the day, bars and smoothies. Kaustubha every day sits down. Here's your meal.
Well, that's because my wife is so sattvic.
His wife is incredibly sattvic.
That's everything. So I just go along with it.
And when I go over there, it's like so like clean and refined and perfect. And as soon as it's done, I go right to Rajas and Thomas. I was like, "Can I have more? Can I have more, please?" And we're like, and Kaustubha was like, I was like, "Are you going to eat more?" And he's like, "No, I'm quite fine right now. My stomach."
You're exaggerating.
My stomach's half full. I think I'll stop.
Yep.
I gotta leave room. I was like, "Is there any dessert? Is there any peanut butter? Is there any?"
But here's an exercise.
Do like an hour of grazing afterwards.
You're exaggerating, but how about this? Here's an exercise. Here's a homework, right? When you eat today, you sit down quietly, don't talk. Every bite, put your fork down in between, right? Or, like, in other words, don't be shoving food in your mouth before you've swallowed the food that you've already put in your mouth, right? and try
Swallow
to
it before you take the next bite.
Yeah, and swallow before you take the next, before you even pick up the fork to take the next bite.
I'd be there for hours.
And concentrate on the ingredients in the food, the taste in the food. Try to identify the spices that are in there. Try to, just like concentrate on the food. And then if you want to go even deeper, meditate on the fact that all of these ingredients were provided for me by God. That's an exercise for today. Okay? Sattvic exercise for today. That's how the sadhus eat, right?
Huh?
Right? That's how the sadhus eat.
Yeah, like a Tatiya-stan. No talking.
Yeah, right.
Gotta sit there. There's more enjoyment in it. Just like if you like chocolate.
Yeah.
Right? If you like chocolate, how much pleasure can you get if you take a piece of chocolate and shove it down your mouth? It's gone in a second.
Okay.
Tiny little beats. Tiny little pieces. Savor each piece. Whoa. Thanks, everybody. Join us late. We're
going to check up on people if they did that homework, too. Okay. Tomorrow we want to hear some. Here's some stories. If anybody's got any stories out there.
Hey, Mara, what's up with yoga?
Today we have Lisa Bermudez teaching at 10 a.m. And then
I'm excited about that.
Yep. And tomorrow there's a new class starting with Trevor Vaughn. It's an Ashtanga and Yoga Nidra class.
What time is it?
Well, it's at 8 a.m., but people need to sign up for it 30 minutes in advance. Or earlier.
Okay. Awesome. It's on Patreon. If you like what we're doing, support us. Patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. It really helps us keep this thing going. Now we want to see everybody dance.
Oh, and there's a men's meeting at 11 a.m. too, Raghu.
What's that?
The men's meeting is at 11 a.m. today.
Oh, today, men's meeting at 11 a.m.
But how do people sign up for that Ashtanga Yoga Nidra class?
The link is on the Patreon post.
Gotcha.
There we go. Now it's time to sing. It's time to dance. It's time to embrace our real desires.